To get a better understanding of how internalities affect behavior, let's follow a graphical analysis that is very similar to what we did in week 2 and 3 on actionalities. So what we are going to analyze is a positive internality. It's a positive because it's a benefit that we impose on our future self, and it's an internality because we may not take those future benefits into account when taking our decisions now. So as you will see, the analysis is largely similar to the analysis of actionalities. Do note though that that internalities always relate to consumption. So we'll be playing around with the marginal benefits curve, whereas actionalities can relate to both consumption and production. So for actionalities, we could be playing around with both the marginal benefits curve and the marginal cost curve. Here's a familiar supply and demand diagram, and let's look at a good with delayed benefits, such as studying. So on the horizontal axis, the sort of market demand for studying. We order the students by the benefits they derive from studying. Those are the total benefits, so whether present or future. Obviously the horizontal axis varies between 0 and 100%. And those are students studying during the semester, i.e. Not in the days before the exam, but that follow the course and do the studying also during the semester. Alright, so also, as you learned in Microeconomics 1, that where the marginal cost curve hits the marginal benefits curve, that's the optimum share of students studying, and let's set that to 100%. So for all students it holds that they actually study during the semester. That is what they want. That is their plan. Now, the actual demand may be different, and that's because of an internality. And let's assume that there is this internality that is similar across all students, and it has a size of B. Obviously, as I discussed also in the lecture on actionalities, it's an empirical question how this curve should look like. It may be that the bias is larger for some students and smaller for other students. I do know, for instance, of studies into soda consumption, so sugary drinks consumption, that self-control problems are more pronounced among low-income individuals compared to high-income individuals. So it may be that in practice this bias is not similar, but let's keep it simple for now and assume a similar bias, similarly sized bias across all students. And what B stands for is the benefits of studying that you impose on your future self and that you do not take into account. So basically, when you're in a hot state, when you do not take those benefits into account, then simply your benefits are B lower, right? So that the demand curve shifts by B. So then we have our biased demand curve. We already had the unbiased demand curve, and we take all the relevant benefits into account. But now we also have the biased demand curve, very similar in the case of externalities with the marginal private benefit curve. Yeah, and if that is, if these are the benefits that you take into account, and the future benefits go out of the window, then a smaller share of the students will actually study. So this positive internality depresses demand. S1 students study during the semester rather than S star. And do note that the students between S1 and S star would like to study during the semester. That is according to their preferences, but that's not what they do, because they are often in a hot state, so they do not take those future benefits into account when it comes to making the decision whether to study or no. Right, so this also means that you may note that S1 is not equal to 0. So for all of these students, and this may be like, well, 70% of the students. For 70% of the students, it holds that even though they are subject to a bias, they do still follow up on their plans, because the marginal benefits of studying are still substantially higher than the marginal costs, right? So if there is a similar bias for all students, that does not mean that the effect on behavior is also similar for all students, simply because of the fact that the marginal benefits of studying also differ for between students. So some students are in the margin, they only marginally benefit from studying. So when they are exposed to present bias, then they stop studying altogether. And this is obviously inefficient, so we would like to be at S star, where at F, the unbiased demand curve crosses the marginal cost curve, but we are at S1, so where the unbiased demand curve is at E, and that basically means, and if we take the unbiased demand curve as our starting point for our welfare analysis, as we should, because welfare is affected by what we really want, right? So, and if we then look at the unbiased demand curve and the marginal cost curve, then we see that we stop at S1, even though there are positive, even though the benefits are still higher, the marginal benefits are still higher than marginal cost. So we get a welfare loss of AEF. And again, it's just like every student here has two different selves. There's the far-sighted planner, the student who draws up a plan, says, okay, I want to follow this program, it's worth it, and it means that I'll have to study during the semester. But then we also have another self, which is sort of a myopic doer, and this myopic doer does suffer from bias and may not follow up on their plans, and some of them are actually going to be between S1 and S star, so they are not going to study during the semester, even though it would be in their own best interest.